Select Board meeting for Tuesday, February 5th. Have a few announcements. In celebration of the National Women's History Month, the Brookline Commission for Women is running its 27th annual A Woman Who Inspires Me essay contest, and they're accepting nominations for the Woman of the Year. And there's a survey monkey. It's a long URL, but I think it's on the Commission for Women's website. So if anyone's interested, they run a really wonderful event. I don't know the date of it yet, where they announce the Woman of the Year, and then they have the children read the winning essays, and it's quite inspirational.
It's a terrific event. It really is.
Yeah,
I think Bernard and I were there last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I go every year.
Yeah, I've gone for many years ago.
And there's going to be a pop-up town hall at the Brookline Teen Center from 4 to 6, and you can learn about the Brookline Fire Department, next steps, upcoming events, and ways to get involved in the community. And that's at the Teen Center, 4 to 6, Wednesday, February 13th. And a notice from the MBTA that there's a public hearing about a proposal to raise transit fares. Right. February 27th from 6:30 to 8:30. And the proposal would increase bus fares by a dime, subway fares by 15 cents a ride, a monthly link pass by $5.50, and a weekly pass by $1.25. I still think we're going to be still lower than New York, so if that's any consolation. I don't know if it is. Any other announcements?
I think several of us attended a ribbon cutting now almost a week ago, last Wednesday, along with several members of town staff for the new WBUR space on Commonwealth Avenue. And it's a beautiful space. I think compliments to the planning department and other departments within town that had a role in facilitating this. We also had an opportunity to see the mayor of Boston cut the ribbon for a building that happens to be in Brookline, which is a little bit heady, but we're going to go with it. But want to compliment BU and WBUR for the project. I think it's going to be a real asset, and I think there's going to be additional celebrations over the next couple of weeks, and the space is formally going to open later this month. So to those who have an opportunity to go, I would encourage you to. So.
Well, I'd also encourage people to monitor programming at this new city space. There'll be a lot of opportunities to engage in community conversations on a variety of issues, and you know, people should take advantage of that. I mean, it's an institution in our community that can really be interesting as well as educational in a way that is really significant.
I am pleased to be on the nominations committee for the Brookline Youth Awards this year. They seek to, this is an opportunity for residents to hear about the character, challenges, and the dreams of its young people, as well as adults dedicated to their success through the power and intimacy of video interviews shown on the big screen at the Coolidge Corner Theater. The awards ceremony will be in April, but nominations are due February 15th, so if you have a young person in mind, there is a URL. Please email me at my Brookline government address if you want more information.
Okay. Public comment, Ms. Schneider. 5 minutes.
You have to talk 5 minutes, Ruth Ann.
So I'm one of the people that was nominated last year for the Women Who Inspire Us Award. It was called I Was a Grandmother Activist. Remember, we decided to
for the
take back...
crossing guard.
Yes, I got an award for that, one of my neighbors. It was a wonderful ceremony, and the kids were really marvelous. But I came here this evening because my neighbors and I are beginning to talk about all the possibilities of an override, and they're asking me questions that I don't know the answers to, nor do I know where to go. And so I want some, maybe not this evening, but maybe someone will send me in writing something very specific. And don't just send me to a website. I get lost when I go looking there. People would like to know what it's going to cost them. We know what the school is going to cost. It's going to be $80 million. It's going to be 105. This might be this. But people want to know, what's it going to cost me in my taxes? And I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know how to tell them that. And I even asked Stanley Spiegel, and he said, you have to ask someone else. I don't know either. So I've come to you because people really want to know. There's a lot of conversation going on about that. There's a lot of confusing information out there. So how many choices will there be on the override? What will they cost? How much will each person in their taxes, what percent will come back to individual people? And people would like to think about it now as opposed to having it slammed, squeezed in at the last moment kind of thing. So as soon as you could, if that would be forthcoming. And the other thing that we're hand wrestling over is, so did the enrollments go up or down? What is the projection of school enrollment? Lots of people have opinions, but would like to know something specific. Where would one go to find, what is the definitive answer to that question now? Where do you go to find that answer? And please don't send me just websites. If you could send me the answer itself, and then with an asterisk to the website, I would like to be able to tell this or show this to my neighbors. I'm up for re-election this year, and so people want to talk about these things. This is what they're really concerned about, what it's going to cost them.
So right now, I don't think we have an answer on how much it's going to cost you because we don't know yet, because we haven't gotten the numbers from the two building committees yet. We have estimates from the prior phase, the feasibility phases for both the Driscoll and the Baldwin projects, but those are high-level estimates, and the whole purpose of the phase we're going through now is to refine the designs and start getting some real numbers based on specific designs. And I think that those committees are on a trajectory to get those numbers to the last week in February, I believe.
Yeah, we should be able to do that.
So that's around when the discussion will happen. As has been past practice, we will have a public hearing and discussion about the override and its structure, even if we're going to do it in May. That's not even a definite.
Right.
It's a goal, but there's still a lot of moving pieces right now.
So as soon as you know, you'll let us know.
Oh yeah.
Give us lots of attention.
And as part of as part of the override package, we try to put the word out there how much it will cost, giving examples, and that would go up on the website. It would be part of assuming we do an override and assuming there's a campaign, that would be part of that. I believe in the past, even the campaigns have put together little calculators. You put in your assessment, and it gives you a number.
Yeah.
It shows you exactly. So, but I can't speak for a campaign, but that's typically what's happened in the past.
And the enrollment figures for the schools?
That you have to get from the schools.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Well, one thing we can say is that there's no one answer to that. I mean, enrollment projections are just that, projections, and they're fairly complex. So there are, ways to look at them, but, there is no one answer that is the, quote, right answer. But clearly, our enrollments are not going down, and there's no prospect that they will be going down. I think
And are
that's
they
for
going
certain.
up?
Pardon?
I mean, so they are going up, is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I'm not the expert, but, my understanding is that, they're going up. The issue is by how much. And that is what is very difficult to pin down in terms of precise numbers I think people are looking for.
Do you think that's in the school department, someone there would have that information? Could you tell me who?
You want
Yeah.
Could you
Who?
tell me who in the school department would have that information?
Mary Ellen.
Mary
Dunn.
Ellen.
Mary Ellen Dunn.
Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, then let's dive into our calendar. We have a scintillating calendar tonight. Trying to make a joke. Minutes for January 29th. I think there was a vote that was that needs to be corrected in here. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, please say aye. Selectperson Franco.
Aye.
Selectperson Heller.
Aye.
Selectperson Green.
Aye.
Selectperson Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And we have a question of approving and executing a contract in the amount of $381,700 with Capeway Roofing System in connection with the Putterham Golf Course roof replacement project. It's a lot of roof.
It is a lot of roof. Ray Masak Building Department, once again, we got really favorable bids, and we recommend we move forward. This is about $150,000 savings over the estimate.
Really? Oh, okay. Really is a lot of roof. Okay, any questions for Mr. Masak?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I assume this, how big is this roof?
It's on the clubhouse.
So,
No, that's
not that big.
not that big, no.
I'm just wondering if it's solar ready.
We wouldn't put a solar-ready roof on a slate.
Yeah, okay, slate, right, okay. And also it's awfully small, okay.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the contract with the amount of $381,700 with Capeway Roofing Systems in connection with the Putterham Golf Course roof replacement project, please say aye. Selectperson Franco.
Aye.
Selectperson Heller.
Aye.
Selectperson Green.
Aye.
Selectperson Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And we have a contract for design services for storage bin roofs in the amount of $25,200 with Western and Sampson of Foxborough. Mr. Ditto,
Another roof.
a
So
different
this is
kind of
a,
roof.
We're in need of basically a structural engineer to design a steel shed roof for the bins up at the Municipal Transfer Center. This contract is for not only the design, but the bid assistance as well as construction management. If you've been up there, you know that we have probably about 10 to 12 bins that are uncovered right now. And some of the material really should be covered because basically we're paying to get disposed of by weight. And if they get, for instance, leaves, if they get wet, then we're paying a premium for that. So it's a very good project for us. And as soon as we get permission from you, we'll jump right on it.
Okay, any questions, comments? I'll move that we approve the contract for design services for the storage roof bins in the amount of $25,200 with Western and Sampson. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectperson Franco.
Aye.
Selectperson Heller.
Aye.
Selectperson Green.
Aye.
Selectperson Hamilton.
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
And we have a Chapter 90 approval request for $1.45 million, $1,450,000 with the Mass DOT Highway Division relating to Pearl Street.
Yes, so we're at a 90% PS&E. So we're asking that this application go into the MassDOT. It's two forms right now. One's the project request form, and the other is the environment punch list. This is for the reconstruction of Pearl Street, which is the soup to nuts. Would be new sidewalks, a cycle track, raised crosswalk, imprint pavement, new antique lights. So it's going to look a lot different, a lot better when we get in and out of that area. Just to give you an idea of the schedule that we have laid out right now, we're looking to advertise the contract on February 8th. We want to open bids on March 12th, and we hope to complete construction by November 1st.
Really?
Yeah, it's very aggressive.
Wow.
We've been working with Children's Hospital because they have to take care of their site work, so coordination's been there, so we think we can do it.
Well, that project is really taking shape. They're starting to put the facade on.
Looks good.
Yeah. Any questions? I'll move that we approve and execute a Chapter 90 approval request in the amount of $1,450,000 to the Mass DOT Highway Division related to the reconstruction of Pearl Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Select Person Franco.
Aye.
Select Person Heller.
Aye.
Select Person Green.
Aye.
Select Person Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Okay. And we have a question of approving a special use permit for the Project Bread's Walk for Hunger on May 6th from 7 to 1. Is anyone here for that? Yeah, okay. So this is a fun project. Every year, a lot of people walk through Brookline for a good cause. And this will be May 6th from 7 to 1. And the impacted street is Beacon Street, pretty much the entire length of Beacon in Brookline.
My understanding is that it does not stop traffic or impede in a significant way traffic.
Right, yeah, there might be some, yeah, this is all on the sidewalk, and there might be some brief interruptions at particular streets at the very peak. That's been my experience.
But there may be some parking restrictions on Beacon Street to allow for a larger than normal crowd to use the sidewalks.
Right,
So the inconvenience will be minor. Not
right.
major.
And it's on a Sunday, unlike the marathon.
Soon to be.
Right. Okay. I'll move that we approve this special use permit for Project Bread's Walk for Hunger on May 6th from 7 to 1 p.m. 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. All those in favor, please say aye. Select Person Franco.
Aye.
Select Person, excuse me, Heller.
Aye.
Green. Aye.
Select Person Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes, and that was something stuck in my throat, rather than forgetting your names, as I usually do. And last item on our miscellaneous calendar is special use permit for the annual BAA and Jimmy Fun Walk on Sunday, September 22nd, 2019. Boy, they're way ahead of themselves, getting this in early. And this too is a walk. They're just using the sidewalks, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, they always do.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
And it's the sidewalks along the marathon route.
Right. So it's Beacon Street.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of approving a special use permit request for the annual BAA Jimmy Fun Walk on Sunday, September 22nd, 2019. Please say aye. Select Person Franco.
Aye.
Select Person Heller.
Aye.
Select Person Green.
Aye.
Select Person Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, on to our main calendar. Mr. Choi, come on up, join the party. And you're re-upping for the Economic Development Advisory Board.
Yes, that is correct.
So tell us about your experience there. And
Sure. I have been with EDAB for approximately 5 years now. I think this is, I'm going for my third re-upping. Never a dull moment. And I am an architect, and I'm a planner by profession as well, focusing on transportation issues, mostly transit architecture and airport planning, a lot of work at Logan. We are in the midst of a very challenging time here with our economic vibrancy and community development opportunities throughout Brookline. So it does require, I think, a new set of eyes to look at some of these problems differently. And I think we have a number of opportunities now. Everything from pop-ups to looking at how to really rethink co-working in some of our communities and these interesting, I think, district development opportunities, I think, has made it very interesting for me to want to stay on for another term to see how I can make a difference in our community here. So I don't know if there are any specific questions.
so
for me.
what direction would you like to see EDAB go? That perhaps they aren't going, or maybe they should push harder? Or
Sure. Let me put it in the context of what we could probably do better. And I think one of the challenges we have is we have a very sort of, I would say, a conventional model for revenue generation. And as we look at different emerging economic climates come before us, it's time to really think differently about how we can rethink our current revenue models. And I think there are huge opportunities when you look at and new opportunities like Newberry College to rethink what's out there. What is highest and best use? And I know for most of us in EDAB, it's, do we look at major developments that can really generate some revenue for our coffers? But, again, can we rethink this model? And I think this is an opportunity in these changing times for us to really give ourselves a moment to take pause and think about how else we can really, one, I think, bring back economic vibrancy in our communities, which is in some cases mutually exclusive from our revenue generation targets that we as EDAB are tasked to really kind of push that agenda. And I think I'm just trying to find that balance. And I don't think I have a silver bullet solution here. But I think with these new challenges come opportunities to really rethink how we address this. And I think the case in point, some of the vacancy issues that we've been addressing last evening raise some interesting questions as to whether we should have a master lessee strategy for pop-up retail. Should we engage some national organizations who have experiences looking at solving these vacancy issues, which are not that easy to solve, as it's clearly a regional issue. When you look at the empty storefronts in Boston, we are no exception. So, yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question as to how we could rethink this, but I don't have a clear set of answers in these interesting times, but I certainly would like to test some of them. And yeah, that's not really a great answer for your question, but it is certainly what keeps me up at night.
It's interesting you bring up Newberry, because I certainly haven't been looking at Newberry as a big revenue opportunity. And what's interesting is that, that process is going to be moving very fast, faster than any of our planning processes are going to would normally take in our town form of government, which requires all kinds of consensus and process. So it's an opportunity we're going to have to jump at before we have any answers. Before we have lots of real, deeply studied answers, certainly.
I guess to add to that, I think the sort of committee model that we traditionally have, I think we in EDAB are exploring an alternative approach right now, particularly along Route 9, where we've kind of gone the other direction and started with the community to really solicit some feedback and develop our own set of guidelines that are really grassroots based. So I think that is certainly comes from a lot of feedback we've gotten in the committee process.
Yeah, one of the weaknesses of the committee process as we've had it to date is we tend to be reacting to a specific proposal instead of getting out in front and asking, how do we want a part of town to develop, and what is acceptable development. We're reacting to a specific project without a grand master plan or a grand vision. And you can criticize that, but I don't know if we've had any other alternative given the state of how we have to approach these things. And sometimes you just have to react to a developer. They own the land and they want to build something. So we've been thinking those are opportunities. Yeah, Mr. Green.
That's interesting. So you're looking at the committee form of decision making, and you're talking about going down to the grassroots instead of committee down to the grassroots, or starting at the grassroots going out. The alternative, another alternative, would be to go up and a more executive type decision making body. As a town, it's hard. We can't do that, or it's hard. But tell me how a grassroots up approach to big development issues would work in a town setting.
Sure.
Where there is a quote grassroots organization called town meeting.
Sure.
That's involved in the mix.
Absolutely. When you're dealing with town meeting, we are typically, again, as we mentioned, we're being reactionary. We have a situation that has been put on the table, and there may be two directions. It could be 40B, or it could be some sort of zoning resolution, typically in an overlay district or something of that sort, that they've really forced your hands. You've been given a limited amount of time to make it to town meeting, and in this short, compressed time frame, do we really know if the best option is going to emerge? Probably not. So taking this grassroots approach by reaching out to the Route 9 neighbors, which is a process that my colleague Tom Nally and EDAB initiated. We went to the community and I think spent about, it's been 4 working sessions to really solicit some feedback. I'm in the process right now. I'm just a helper, so I'm working on building the massing models and building the tools to help the community react. And ultimately, by starting now, as opposed to waiting for a developer to put something on the table, we are now proactively looking at opportunities and seeing what can we do, what are the impacts, and can we ultimately even create an overlay district in response to these opportunities. And being even more proactive, I think EDAB was smart about, and this is one of the few times we give ourselves credit, reaching out to MIT and having a class about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, do some research on the opportunities of a site like Route 9 and identify through mapping, through interviews, and through outreach with various community members, really identified a nice little blueprint to start the initiative. So we had some good research, we had some outreach. There was clearly pockets of interest and pockets of resistance. So with that knowledge in hand, our team went back to the community and said, okay, we've seen some interesting reactions, and we've seen you in some of our committee meetings, and what would you really like? So you turn it back to them and you say, let's start to create some criterias and conditions of success. And I think that's been a pretty successful process. And I would say that I think about 2 weeks ago we had an open house. Right. And there were probably about, with all of you in there, I wasn't in attendance, unfortunately, shame on me, but we had about 70 people attend the session. And I think these sort of efforts have been really helpful, just to really feel the pulse and see where everyone is. And it sets the groundwork for maybe an overlay district or maybe some new upzoning that we can actually propose. in advance of a developer coming in and saying, this is what I'd like to do. We don't have a whole lot of time. We've got to make the town meeting. Here you go. It's this or 40B. I think we'd like to give ourselves a few more options and be proactive. So in that sense, I think grassroots has really been productive in this particular case.
Yeah.
I noticed on your application, you talked about the helping EDAB explore the future of pop-up retail as a viable commercial strategy that affects businesses and residents alike, community. I'm wondering what your thoughts about that are, and do you see any immediate opportunities for pop-up retail?
Yeah, I think there's certainly immediate opportunities. I think the challenge here from our ongoing conversations as a group is that the fundamental business model for a pop-up is not geared for our traditional real estate revenue streams. You know, how do you really take advantage of seasonal, temporal businesses in a fundamentally static and conventional real estate revenue stream that really isn't that accommodating to pop-ups and startups and people trying to test out the market. So I think nationally there have been some innovative business models that have looked at creating a master lessee strategy where someone is actually collectively taking all these vacant spots and creating short-term lease agreements for pop-ups. I would say that pop-ups have historically been, you know, they've been just big gimmicks, right? You know, you've seen the Charmin temporary toilets in Times Square. You've seen all these sort of things that are, at the same time, I think really important when we talk about the intangibles. They're Instagrammable moments. There are things that actually create urban vibrancy. They can do a lot for communities. And it's very hard sometimes to quantify it in dollars and cents from a real estate perspective. So I feel like this pop-up model, while it is emergent and for most traditional real estate investors, a very dubious, faddish thing, I think it's really here to stay. And developing and refining that model is critical. Now that we know that the economy has clearly changed, we are shopping differently. E-commerce looks at pop-ups as a strategy that is as integral as bricks and mortar. So how do you sort of find that balance in our conventional model, and which is very difficult with the way Brookline real estate works. You look at our commercial districts, most of the owners don't understand it. And some of them are families who've been around for a couple generations who look at this and say, it's another fad. I don't get it. So I think there's a lot of outreach, and there's a lot of learning on our end to see if this could work. So it's an opportunity.
Okay. Any other questions?
I want to go back to Boylston Street for a second. And I'm going to acknowledge at the front end that this is a little bit of an unfair question, but by acknowledging it, it makes it okay for me to ask you.
Please.
I want to just sort of put in a plug for the River Road Study Committee and say that I think 33% of that was reactive and 66% was proactive. So I got to sort of put a stake in the ground and defend the work of a committee that I chaired. But more to the point, I want to go back to the MIT study that you alluded to, which I think from the River Road Study Committee's perspective was incredibly helpful because it sort of set the stage.
Right.
Do you think that there's an opportunity to do that type of effort elsewhere in town? And I'm not going to make the mistake of sort of telling you to identify a particular stretch, corridor, or even property. But is this a model that you think could be successful elsewhere?
Are you referring to reaching out to the community, starting that process, or the River Road example? Because River Road is a great example.
I would make the argument that MIT study brought in an outside perspective and forced, I think, a lot of people in the community to think about the Boylston Street corridor, and in particular between the Boston line and Cypress Street, in a different way than we have before.
Absolutely.
And I think there's some advantage to having MIT students or somebody else that isn't
Right.
day by day, year by year living this experience come in and say, have you thought about X, Y, or Z?
Absolutely. And I think having a peer review or having another group come in is always a great way to expand our horizons. And I think the ULI, the Urban Land Institute, does have a group that does these peer reviews. They visit locations. I think years ago they did Cleveland Circle, right before the Circle development. And I think that certainly opened some eyes and really expanded our thought process as we looked at all the options out there. But I think looking at the strategic parcel study, I think there are a number of locations worthy of that type of aggressive corridor study and engagement. I think that certainly is a great way to galvanize the community and say, look, one, the community is cognizant of it. The town is thinking about the opportunities, and the opportunities don't necessarily always have to be hotels and towers, and there are lots of different ways to look at highest and best use. But it starts with I think these types of approaches, and I think having an MIT-like study certainly is an opportunity. And there are many organizations or many institutions around the city, including architecture schools like Wentworth, the Boston Architectural College, that have groups that specifically look for sites to really investigate, and they really like to come to these types of arrangements where they can actually showcase student investigations. So I think these are, certainly the best bang for our buck. So I think that there's certainly a lot of potential, and I'm not going to, I don't know enough about some of these site opportunities we've been talking about recently to really opine on some opportunities, but it seems like any of these would be great candidates for an investigation or a peer review.
Okay, anything else? Well, thank you, Mr. Choi, and I will go out on a limb and suspect that we will reappoint you tonight.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks
thank you.
for your time.
Yeah. We have executive session minutes, and I have a statement to read. The Select Board designated Town Council to review the minutes of the Board's meetings in executive session for the purpose of determining whether the minutes may be released or should remain confidential, because publication would defeat the lawful purposes of the executive session. Under the open meeting law, the determination must be announced at the Board's next meeting and included in the minutes of the meeting, and that's what I'm doing. After Town Council's review of the executive session minutes from July 10th, 2018 through December 18th, 2018, the following set of minutes may be released. 7/10/2018, minutes page 2 may be released. 9/6/18, the minutes page 1 shall be partially withheld. Minutes page 2 may be released. September 13th, 2018, the minutes may be released. 10/23/18, the minutes page 2 may be released. 10/30/2018, the minutes page 2 may be released. November 7th, 2018, minutes page 2 may be released. And December 18th, 2018, the minutes page 1 may be released. Okay. Now we have the question of approving the proposed charge for the Surveillance Technology Military Type Equipment Study Committee. Mr. Green.
Yes. This committee is related to the May 2018 town meeting vote to establish a select board committee to study technology that is being or could be used by Brookline police and other governmental and private bodies to monitor and surveil Brookline citizens. The charge is in your packet, so I won't read the entire thing, but I would like to just summarize. Well, maybe I will.
You can summarize it.
I would like to summarize some of the salient points. So the name of the committee is going to be Surveillance Technology and Military Type Equipment Study Committee to study and prepare a report to the Select Board with recommendations and suggestions with respect to the risk associated with such technology and equipment. The committee will be comprised of 5 residents of Brookline appointed by this board as voting members, and we may appoint additional voting members upon the request of the committee. The Brookline Chief of Police, or his designee, the head of the Information Technology Department, or his designee, and the chair of the Critical Infrastructure Monitoring System Oversight Committee, or that person's designee, shall also be voting members of the committee. And a member of the Select Board shall chair the committee, and I volunteered, foolishly though it may have been, for that role.
We're grateful, thank you.
Okay, just kidding. So the committee will study issues associated with surveillance technology and military-type equipment, and develop an inventory and a way of looking at that equipment and surveillance technology as appropriate. So in connection with preparing this charge, I shared it with Chief Lipson, and he suggested some edits, which I incorporated into the charge, related to situations where the issues addressed by the committee may create some conflicts between information that we're looking at and information that may be exempt from public disclosure under state law or other provisions. So I think that that's an important in addition to the charge, just to make sure that we don't run into problems that create more difficulty than we need with this committee. So following the committee's vote on the final report, it will present the report to the Select Board, and thereafter it shall disband. And I put that in because I think it's important not to have committees of this type in particular that have just ongoing existence after it is come forward with a report with recommendations that we can act on. The Select Board may want to set up additional committees to deal with specific issues, but that shouldn't be a requirement of this committee. So that, by way of summary, is.
Are you looking for members, or do you have a slate in mind?
We are looking for members. I have an application from one person, Scott Ananian, who's in the audience.
Well, I'm glad Mr. Ananian applied, because he was the petitioner
For some
of the
reason,
warrant
he was
articles.
interested in doing this. But his resume is actually quite impressive. I won't go into it, but I mean, suffice it to say that he has an incredible technological background in terms of the issues that this committee will be looking at, particularly surveillance technology. I have approached other people who may be interested in joining the committee, and by this meeting being on TV with our vast audience, I'm sure other people interested in participating in the committee will know to submit an application to the Select Board through the town website. So.
Is there a sense of the duration of this committee? And I ask just because that's a frequent follow-up question when I make calls to people asking, are you interested in joining X?
Yeah. My guess is that we're talking about 6 to 9 months. This is a fairly complex issue that the committee is going to be dealing with, and it's going to require a lot of looking at information, being briefed by appropriate individuals, and thinking through what is the best approach to address problems that may come up. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth in terms of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense in the context of a town like Brookline, and in today's world. So, at 6 to 9 months, that's my guess. Probably longer than that. So it's not, it's not a short-term committee. But
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I'll move that we approve the proposed charge for the Surveillance Technology and Military Type Equipment Study Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectperson Franco.
Aye.
Selectperson Heller.
Aye.
Selectperson Green.
aye.
Selectperson Hamilton.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay, go forth and study.
And thank you for Mr. Namian for stepping forward. I mean, I know he was involved in the town meeting warrant article, but so I appreciate the fact he stepped forward and will contribute his expertise. I don't know if Chief Lipson has anything to say, but
I will say thank you, Chief Lipson.
okay.
Quickly.
Yes, I don't want to abuse the privilege here, but yeah, again, mostly thank you for taking on the work. I think it is important, and as you had said, Selectperson Wyszynski, as with the Economic Development Board, I think this is an opportunity to sort of get out in front of an issue, and I hope our review does not turn up anything awful, but it lays the groundwork to make sure that we're in a good place moving forward, and that we can learn from our neighbors and maybe teach our neighbors something. I would my one little plug is I would like to encourage the board to consider appointing a representative from the CDICR and from the school department.
CD.
Commission on Diversity and Inclusion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
I got all the letters right. They were both in the original warrant charge, and I think the civil liberties perspective is valuable, especially in terms of addressing sort of disparate impacts on different communities. But mostly, thank you very much, and again, thank you, Selectperson Green.
Thank you. Okay, we have some licensing matters. First, we have a question of approving the application of Alden Castle Corp. For change of manager from James Apteker to Jamie Campos. Is you're Mr. Campos?
I am.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
This is a common vic license. This isn't liquor, right? Or
It is.
oh, it is
Should be
liquor.
a liquor license.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, is there going to be any change of operations? Is just
No change of operations at all. James Apteker, the owner of our company, has recently taken on different responsibilities, if you will, and is not involved in the operation as much anymore. I'm the director of operations for the company, and will be on property.
okay. You've completed the tips. Have you met with Lieutenant Raskin?
I have.
Okay. And what are some of the Brookline specific requirements?
Testing me.
Yeah, there you go.
We actually, Longwood operates at 5 different venues, and we actually put some things into place at our other venues that aren't as strict due to going through this process. So we have a book behind the bar with incident reports that are very detailed. So tip certification only requires that you have notes taken, if you will. But for Brookline, it's an actually incident report that's very specific with, if you will, certain sections that we like to have filled out and a brief description of the incident as well. Talking specifically about licenses and if the license was what would be a forgery or not. So there's a lot of good points that we implemented, not only here, but actually at some of our other properties.
Okay. Just be aware that we do stings and and we don't want to see you back.
We run
As much as I'd like to see you, we don't want to see you.
mild-mannered operation,
Right.
mostly weddings
Right.
and some corporate businesses. So hopefully you won't see me back.
Okay. Questions from the board?
So I see you've been involved in the food service industry for, let's say, over 15 years now.
Long time.
Have you ever been the manager of record on a liquor license before?
I have not. This is my first.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. This is a public hearing? Or? No, but we'll take, if anyone wishes to make any comments for or against this change of manager, well, now's your time. We'll forever hold your peace. Okay.
We should just add for the record that the police department has reviewed this application and sees no reason to deny it.
Okay. I will move that we approve the application of Alden Castle Corp. doing business as Alden Castle at 20 Chapel Street for a change of manager from James Apteker to Jamie Campos. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectperson Franco.
Aye.
Selectperson Heller.
Aye.
Selectperson Green.
Aye.
Selectperson Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Good luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Good evening.
Next item is an application of Nexus Innovation of Boston, LLC, doing business as Mojo Ramen. Oh, you're going to have to help me. Apposite Lim.
Wong Si.
Okay. There's no way I'm pronouncing that. So I apologize.
No problem.
For common victular license with entertainment, radio, tape music at 477 Harvard Street with a seating capacity of 14 and hours of operation Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Welcome. Tell us about your operation.
Yes, so I currently have 2 restaurants already. One is in West Roxbury, and the other one is in Brookline. Actually, it's next door to the one that I'm applying for right now. So I'm looking to open this Mojo Ramen, noodle shop basically, and it's at the 477 Harvard Street, just next to 479. I'm doing an Asian restaurant at the moment. So we hope to get it open sometime in a couple of months.
Are you going to be combining the spaces?
No, it's going to be separately operated.
And there's going to be coordination of operations, or?
Maybe slightly, but the operation is pretty much different because the other one is more like a full-blown Asian food, but this one just basically noodle soup, so it's much easier in terms of operation.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Are you good?
That's good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The only thing I would just clarify is that the building department has determined that only 12 seats are allowed inside.
We have 12
Thank you.
seats, correct.
So the 2 establishments are next to each other. You're going to have common trash disposal procedures.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of that part of the business, I mean, is it going to be done together? We're
going to use the same service provider, and I think they will advise us, how much, how often they're going to need to come and pick up the trash. Yeah. But generally it's going to be separated, almost everything, and I think right now they have like two separate trash bins for each restaurant.
Yeah. I was thinking in terms of 2 restaurants that are commonly owned, is going to create double the trash and other disposable items.
That's right. We got to.
But I'm sure you'll handle it.
Yeah. I mean, you need advice from the service provider.
Are you gonna have a delivery option? Are you?
Yes.
Okay. And where's that delivery vehicle gonna park?
These days, we just use Uber Eats and Grubhub. They do everything. So we don't, and we also we have a third-party service provider doing that. So we don't have our own delivery people.
Okay.
So, and also in this complex, they have enough parking spaces because it's next to. We have Starbucks in there, and when we are busy, Starbucks already pretty much closed. Yeah. So we have plenty of parking spaces available. Yeah.
Where are deliveries going to take place of ingredients, raw ingredients? Is there an alley behind, or is the plan to pull up in front in the early hours?
They just get in the front door.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll move that we approve the application of Lexus Innovation of Boston doing business as Mojo Ramen. Tell me your name again.
Opposite Lim Wong Si.
Okay, you said it. Owner for a common victular license with entertainment, radio, tape music at 477 Harvard Street. Proposed seating is 12. and the hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. All those.
I see that the fire department has recommended that we put a condition on this, and it looks like it's pending successful installation and testing of an extinguishing system. I don't know if that's something we have to call out or standard condition, but.
Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Are you aware of that,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
requirement?
Okay.
But we should make it conditional.
Sure.
Okay. Conditioned on the successful installation and testing of the extinguishing system by the fire department. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Select Person Franco.
Aye.
Select Person Heller.
Aye.
Select Person Green.
Aye.
Select Person Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Be careful, there's some papers on the floor, don't want you to slip.
Okay. We have two more items on our agenda. First one is making an additional appointment to the Newberry College Acquisition Advisory Committee. Mr. George Cole, both Select Person Heller and I would really value having him on the committee. He brings some real good experience and insight. He was at our last meeting and really helped us out, so I think it'd be good to have him officially on the committee. So I will move that we appoint George Cole to the Newberry College Acquisition Advisory Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Select Person Franco.
Aye.
Select Person Heller.
Aye.
Select Person Green.
Aye.
Select Person Hamilton.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And we have an appointment for the Economic Development Advisory Board. So, Mr. Kleckner?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're playing catch-up on this committee. We have an old term, one expiring term, and that's Mr. Choi, and he is expressed an interest in reappointment. He is the only applicant for this term, and so I'd put the name in front of you, Derek Choi.
Aye.
So he's
And, yep.
3 years.
Okay, and he's appointed. And I believe that concludes our business for tonight. Thank you.